when the Democrats thought that their best hope to stop Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis is a dementia patient, they actually have a hero in the wings that you would not expect. And it is the governor of the rancid state of California, Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom, yes, that guy, the American Psycho looking guy, that Patrick Bateman of the modern day is apparently going to eviscerate Ron DeSantis down to his very, very core, to the point where I gotta say, bravo as a DeSantis hater, because clearly this Democrat guy has the knife and will power and the sociopathy that Donald Trump doesn't even have. This guy's insane in a very cool way, and we're gonna cover that right now.
This week we learned that it's going to happen, a debate between you and Ron DeSantis, November 30th, Fox News Channel, Sean Hannity in Georgia without a crowd, just the two of you. Why are you doing that, and what is your strategy?
Well, I don't know if that's the right question. Why is he doing it? Is the right.
So here's the foreground, right? So Ron DeSantis, who's second place and is far, far off, like 30% behind Donald Trump's second place. This guy in second place of a race for president, the nomination that is, he is going to have a debate with the guy who's not even running for president, and Gavin Newsom. Governor Newsom takes him up on the debate, thinking that Ron DeSantis wouldn't actually take it, because clearly Ron DeSantis, if you've seen him debate, I've seen him debate like 5 times at this point. The guy has no charisma. He's like kind of short. He just doesn't know what he's doing. Kind of pudgy, shaped like a refrigerator, skin of that of a football. You got to say this guy ought to be playing for, you would say like he looks like a over the hill running back, I guess. But the point is that Ron DeSantis evidently doesn't have that sort of gravitas or the X factor to be a charismatic presidential figure. And so you would think, why would he take up a debate? And that's exactly what Gavin Newsom is bringing up here. Gavin Newsom, again, has the perfect aesthetic for a politician. Again, late 50s, early 60s, I guess good looking, tall, white guy, slick back, yuppie hair. This is the exact Patrick Bateman that we need today. And again, I will ironically simp for Gavin Newsom because I think this is good content.
Right question. He's running, I think, I'm not sure after tonight, but currently he's running for president of the United States.
So look at that, scathing. He's running, well, not after tonight. So already just saying like your debate performance yesterday, Ron, was so embarrassing that you might want to quit.
And you think he's still going to be? You think he'll still be a candidate on November 30th?
That's an open-ended question. Part of me.
So again, a very obvious question, like, hey, do you think he's going to be a candidate by November 8th, which is when I think they're going to have their debate? So it seems a little bit of ways away, right? So like 5 weeks away at least. Well, listen, the point is here is that it's not so much the debate itself that it is important. It is more so the prospect of it, because clearly in politics, perception is everything. And so the fact that he agreed to a debate with the guy who's not even in the race for president just makes DeSantis look like a weakling. Because why the hell would you debate Newsom? Like, do you think Trump would have done that? Do you think he would have debated the governor of California as a Democrat in 2015? That makes no sense. But yet here we are in the year of our Lord Jesus Christ, 2023, and we have this thing as a prospect. Not even that, but also the fact that DeSantis, who clearly is not good at debate, is going to take up somebody who's rhetorically pretty impressive, like Gavin Newsom. Again, he lies through his teeth, but that's a good politician in my opinion. And, so here we go.
Me wonders if, the fact that he took this debate, the fact that he took the bait in relationship to this debate, shows that he's completely unqualified to be president of the United States.
You see how sociopathic Gavin Newsom is. He starts laughing, kind of like, so basically in his mind, what he just said there in the last 5 seconds was something that was supposed to be funny. So then he starts laughing at his own joke, but he didn't actually think it was funny because he already considered that line before. But he laughs just to prepare other people to laugh. So he's like, yeah, and he's prepared to run for president of the United States. And so it is kind of creepy. Most people can't pick up on that, though. So again, this does work from the political angle that most plebeians won't understand what the Roman senator equivalent would be for Gavin Newsom today in America. And so that is kind of brilliant. And then you can see that he very quickly drops the laugh, even mid-sentence, because again, he doesn't actually viscerally feel like it was a funny thing to say, which is to also point out that he is actually sociopathic, which is kind of cool to me.
That's my humble first.
Why is that? You're baiting him with the debate offer?
Of course. I mean, why is he debating a guy who's not even running for president when he's running for president? He's showing up at the Reagan Library, hallowed ground, and he puts out an ad today, not for his presidential campaign, to promote a debate against the governor of California? I mean, this guy's distracted. So I don't know that he has it in his heart. I think, here's my personal...
Now, see how brilliant this is. Gavin Newsom took stock of what was going on in 2024 and said, you know what, I probably won't beat Biden in a primary, and even if I do, the economy sucks. Donald Trump would beat me in a presidential election. So you know what, let Joe take the slings and arrows, let him run for president, let the empty vessel of his administration go and take the L in 2 years, but instead I'll bide my time as governor of California, and then in 2028 run for president then. And who's more likely to be presidential candidate in 2028? 80-something-year-old Trump, who, let's say, loses this election, or would it be Ron DeSantis? Probably Ron DeSantis at that point, or at least that was the calculus when he made the debate offer in the first place, which is to say, okay, how can I hurt DeSantis before he even runs for president in 2028? Well, the way you do it is you have him visibly be a concerned presidential candidate who cares about the well-being of the country, and then bait him into a debate where there was no utility in debating the guy in California. So he just makes an ass out of himself. And so then in 2028, once Gavin Newsom beats him in a debate in the past, he'll be like, number one, I beat you already. Two, you didn't care about the American people to have your priorities in order, and you lost to Donald Trump in the primary, is what he's going to say in 2028. So this was the 5D chess here that I'm going to spell out for you.
Personal opinion about Ron DeSantis, he regrets running for president. He made a huge mistake. He listened to his consultants. He bought his own hype. He had this little God complex. I mean, look at the ads themselves. Literally, God created. I mean, he bought into all this stuff. And he quickly regretted it, but he's stuck. And here's the problem. He got one chance at first impression. He's belly flopped. He's down 30 points.
You see how brilliant this is? This guy's completely Machiavellian in his thinking. He says, you get one chance at a first impression. This guy has completely belly flopped. He takes glee in saying that. Even though he's a sociopathic person, he viscerally thinks that's kind of funny that somebody he doesn't like, somebody who's an antagonist in his political sphere, is belly flopping because he rejoices in the pain of others, which is kind of keynote, which is to suggest that clearly this guy is more mentally sharp than any other Republican besides probably Trump at that point, which is to also point out the fact that he's clearly leagues in just completely out of the depth of somebody like DeSantis. And so this is very, very nice to hear.
And here's the problem. Get one chance at first impression. He's belly flopped. He's down.
You see how confident he is when he says that, not only because he's obviously right about this, but just because he's a confident guy. Again, 6'4", you're this white guy, millionaire, a trust fund baby or whatever. I think he came, what did he come from? He came from like the Getty Images family, like the literal trademark, those sort of like Google Images things. I think his family's married into that. So he's a very rich guy. And so he's already confident saying like, you know what? He belly flopped, and then he's going to give detail.
30 plus points from where he started. So it's a terrible situation for him.
So you see that just completely just dishes it out and just kills him with that. Here we have Governor Newsom getting pressed by Sean Hannity, who's one of the most, this is like basically one of the biggest neocon flesh puppets that we've ever seen on cable television of the last 30 years, for sure. He took the mantle from Bill O'Reilly and other people, copy Tucker Carlson, and he just ran with that shit. And so you can see that he's the most biased guy who could possibly interview Gavin Newsom. So he's in the enemy's home turf. How does Gavin Newsom deal with this? And even more than that, he's in the Reagan Library. People that have been there, I haven't been there. We got invited to go see the second debate, but my stupid fucking... Look, the point is that I could have seen the debate. We didn't figure that out. But the point is that the Reagan Library, very, 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 very much like, obviously, home territory to Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity, who is somebody who hates Gavin Newsom with a passion. So let's see how he deals with this.
Okay. So now I'm going to ask you. So, honest question. So you see the atmosphere, you feel the electricity, you feel the room.
Oh, I know where you're going.
You know where I'm going.
I know where you're going.
Yeah. Okay, and we
just finished a presidential debate. Are you here you are promoting a presidential candidate
no, I want
against
to know,
the governor?
Because I know the truth. In your heart, in your mind, you want this. But you have basically gone on a media tour sucking up to Joe Biden, and you know he's a cognitive mess. You know it.
I also know he's got an extraordinary record to run on.
Really?
And I couldn't be more proud. By the way,
how's his record on the border?
Objectively, he was the winner tonight. No doubt.
Objectively?
Yeah, no. That's
Joe
not
Biden?
that's not spin. These guys identified problems, and Biden actually has not only identified solutions, he's gotten bipartisan deals to begin the process of implementing those.
Look into that.
See how confident he is, saying the absolute biggest lies fucking possible. You know what? Actually, Joe Biden is a great president. He's pushed legislative initiatives to get bipartisan support to start implementing said reforms. He's, again, bullshit artist. Bravo. This guy's killing it. Again, I'm not saying I like him unironically. I am saying I admire how good of a manipulation artist he is. This is something that DeSantis could not figure out for the fucking life of him. If Gavin Newsom were in the position of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, clearly he would put up a way better fight against Trump and could actually beat him, in my opinion, because clearly this guy's very, very much the consummate politician in the Machiavellian sense from the 14th century. So clearly he's got it down pat.
Camera right there, and you tell the people watching.
Yeah.
Do you think this border is secure? Because they keep telling us it's closed and secure. Do you believe the southern border is secure?
Well,
Do you believe with all the fentanyl deaths and opioid deaths, is this border secure?
I believe Ronald Reagan was right in 1986 when he supported comprehensive immigration.
Yeah, well, he
reform.
also said it was the worst decision he ever made.
Yeah, but I believe that he did the right thing for the right reasons because he recognized.
So, guys, can you understand where he's going with this? So, a very, very obvious sort of question that honestly isn't even a manipulative thing for Sean Hannity to bring up. Like, this is just a very glaring problem with the Democrats. Is he'll say, is the border secure? Now, as governor of California, you would obviously know that isn't the case, right? It's like asking an obese person, like, hey, are you muffin topping? Like, very clearly, you can stare at your own gun and say, like, okay, this is huge. But, he's denying it. So he's going to say, well, and again, very sociopathic. He says, well, we're in the Ronald Reagan library. All you boomers lap up the fucking nuts of Ronald Reagan. You know what he did? He gave amnesty to 3 million illegal aliens. So I'm going to use that against you guys and say, well, look, your grandfather in politics, Ronnie Reagan, he did this. And then what does Hannity say? This is the clear retort from the Republican Party, would say, well, actually, his amnesty is different contextually for starters, but secondly is also something that he later on said he regretted, because if you know any of the context of the Simpson-Mazzoli bill of 1986, I believe, basically there was an amnesty, but in tandem with the promise of funding for a border fence at the time, which would be basically the equivalent of what the wall is today. But he didn't get that through the Tip O'Neill-led House of Representatives in the 1980s. And so, again, he did that amnesty under the pretense of better border security. Instead, he got the amnesty and no border security. So he got played. That being said, though, Gavin Newsom, again, reworks the whole frame. And so the narrative now shifts in his favor. Let's see how they fight this out.
Border issue that the entire system needs to be reformed. We haven't reformed since '86.
You're not answering my question.
We need to reform the asylum system.
I want to know.
I believe in strong borders.
You just said Joe's successful.
I think Joe Biden has been an unbelievably successful president.
Is this border secure?
The border,
Bro, look how confident he is, saying the biggest fucking cap ever. It's like if I said I'm 7 foot tall, just in the camera, like I am 7 feet tall. Full conviction. I am taller than Shaquille O'Neal. You can't lie to me. I'm taller than every NBA player that has ever existed. That is that sort of like command, that charisma that he, like, geez, I wish I could do that. Wow.
I think Joe Biden has been an unbelievably successful president.
Is this border secure?
The border, we all agree we have a border challenge. We all agree we need to reform the asylum system. We agree in strong borders.
So he's not successful in securing the border.
I think the Republican Party is complicit in this as well. You cannot do things. I mean, it's just factual.
The border was secure under Donald Trump.
Okay, look at that. Look how confident he is when he lies. He says, look, it's completely factual. And usually when somebody says something like that, they're copping a plea in an argument. They're saying, oh, come on, we know it's all factual, right? Or you know that the border's secure, right? But no, he confidently just chest out says, no, that's right. He doesn't even flinch a little bit.
You cannot do things. I mean, it's just factual.
The border was secure under Donald Trump.
Oh, that's wildly overstated, but I get your fundamental point. Clearly.
See, this is very much a CEO sort of boardroom meeting, sort of like Mad Men sort of idea, right? Where you're saying, I address your, like, I'm reflecting your own emotions. This is a psychological concept as well. I reflect what you're emoting. I acknowledge it. So you feel heard. You feel as if I did acknowledge your point, but I'm also not going to address the underlying issue. I'm just going to skirt it by just acknowledging it. So I'm saying, like, you know what? Yeah, there's a piece of shit right there. But are you going to sweep it up? No, you're just going to point it out and deflect. So you're saying, you know what, Hannity, you have a fundamental issue here. But then he's going to smooth it over with whatever he's going to say here.
The challenges are more acute today. And by the way, I don't need to be educated on this. I have the largest land port in the Western Hemisphere here in the state of California.
But you're
disagree.
A sanctuary state.
And it's
you
the fifth
want
largest
illegal
economy in the
immigration.
world. We had 7.8% GDP growth in 2021. And we dominate on innovation and entrepreneurial spirit.
And who pays for housing, food?
Okay, so here, Gavin Newsom he was freestyling here. You can tell he wasn't in control of what he was saying. He hasn't rehearsed this part of the sociopathic diatribe, okay? This is not a part of the dialogue trick. He had to make this up on his own. Again, this is how he freestyles in argument versus Ron DeSantis, he's going to debate in like 2 months. Like, just compare the difference. When Ron DeSantis has to freestyle something, he's completely lost. He has no idea what the hell he's doing. He just has a vague impression of where to talk about, but nothing about no finesse in his movements. Whereas with Gavin Newsom, of course, he's not as smooth as when he practices in the mirror, but the fact is that he can still kind of get away with it. He's still more verbally competent than people like DeSantis. Trump, on the other hand, is probably better speaking off the cuff than even prepared because he's on that level of like genius in regards to gut instinct. He has got some of the best in political history, in my opinion. But when it comes to Gavin Newsom, again, pretty above average here as well. So again, look at his posture. It's a little more defensive. His eyes kind of open up like this. He's a little more docile in the way he answers. So you can kind of tell that there's cracks in his foundation, but not enough to lose to in an argument, basically, is what I'm saying.
And we dominate on innovation.
So look, we dominate on innovation, but he kind of gets a little bit weak and he does his hands like this. You can kind of tell that he's flinching here.
And who pays for housing, food, clothing, education, healthcare? Who pays for that?
Well, we had $177.7 billion operating surplus over 2 fiscal years, and I just did an $18.5 billion tax rebate, the largest in American history, as we expanded universal health care, and we're providing more services, including, by the way, health insurance, which Ron DeSantis apparently wasn't even aware of the question.
You save that for the debate with Ron. Here's the next.
So again, Sean Hannity just got fucking rocked there because first of all, he didn't expect that sort of comeback from Newsom, who, again, was a little bit off track. He did actually lose his train of thought for a second there. He hadn't rehearsed the whole narrative about not even the border. He knew about that, but he forgot that last 30-second spiel. But the 15 seconds in the intermittent section, that sort of thing, he had down pat. And so he owns Hannity on this because Hannity didn't expect there to be a comeback. He thought like, okay, clearly California's a shithole. There's no way he can sweep it up. But then he just did. He just did. Janitorial services of the year. He just bleached that shit because apparently what he says with enough confidence could sway the average person that doesn't know any better. And that's what you need to do as a politician. So for instance, he says, well, we actually had a fiscal operating surplus in the budget over 2 fiscal years of $177.7 billion. When he says that sort of emphasis in the number one, it connotes a sort of emotion so that people can understand what he's saying and they pay attention to it. But even secondly, you also point out a specific figure that makes you seem as if you're being honest, even though that could have been a made up number, which I actually know is true because I've actually done a couple of, I think in high school, I did simulations on the 2020 fiscal budget of the governor of California's like annualized budget, basically. That was when I was more of a political nerd. But so I know that he's being honest here. But the point is that it's out of context. Obviously, when you add in the context, sure, a GDP of 7.8% looks good, but it's evident that all these companies are overall still moving over to Texas, Florida, etc., because these places have better climates for business. And if you're going to go off just GDP, then you would also source employment and other things like that, but he doesn't because the GDP number's a little bit misrepresentative because in California there's a lot of Silicon Valley sort of things that are somewhat like ethereal and esoteric in their money foundations and not just tangible factories and other things like manufacturing, which have a more lasting impact on the economy in a beneficial sense. So he's full of shit here. But the way that he connotes confidence and the way that he has vindication and the way that he talks makes him more convincing than somebody with Hannity's capabilities, which are that of like the average person. And so that's why Gavin Newsom is just schooling his ass on this.
So I come into your state.
Yes, sir.
First thing I love to do
What?
is bring money to your economy.
I appreciate it.
I go straight to In-N-Out Burger. That is one of the greatest things of your state.
Legit.
Including the weather, including the terrain is phenomenal.
You can keep going, but yes.
You see how slick he is? Again, do you think Gavin Newsom actually gives a shit about what Sean Hannity is saying here, this sort of small talk? No, but he has to pretend to enjoy. As a politician, again, make sure that the other person feels heard, even if you don't actually care. He's like a therapist at this case, like, oh, you think about that? Oh, yeah, your girl did that? Oh, really? Interesting. So here he's saying, oh, you like In-N-Out Burger? Can't argue with that. So he's already heard that sort of exact thing before. How many times has somebody said, oh, I go to California and I'm from here and I love your fast food chain that isn't over there? And he has to pretend like, oh, I really give a shit. Bro, do you think Gavin Newsom eats In-N-Out? He's like, what, a 55-year-old like billionaire? Do you really think he eats In-N-Out? I know Trump would, but does Gavin Newsom? No. So is he just pretending to give a shit? Of course.
It's all phenomenal. However, then I'm passing gas station after gas station and gas station.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're right.
Excuse me.
Gouging us. Oil companies are screwing us.
$4 a gallon in every other state.
Yeah.
$7 I saw here.
Okay, so you see this. Very obviously, California has horrible energy policies. Anybody who's been there, I went there, I think last year, Universal Studios, and the gas was like $8 in the inner city part of LA. Like, it is actually astonishing to fathom the gas being that expensive. And it's not that it's a blue state, because other blue states, like if you go to, even New Jersey has cheaper gas than California. California distinctly has horrible policies in regards to energy. And again, it has plenty of resources. So it isn't even like it doesn't have oil of its own. It's more so the fact that, again, it just has bad environmental regulations and a lot of taxes imposed on unnecessary things. And so when you look at it that way, you can understand that the gas is really expensive due to like democratic policies, but moreover, just specifically the state of California is really bad on this. And so instead of just saying like, actually, you know what, I raise taxes on gas, I'm a douche. No, he's saying it's, and again, this is a populist sort of leftist, economically leftist sort of like a socialist war cry where he's saying, well, no, it's actually the big oil companies. But again, it's ironic coming from the billionaire is what I'm saying.
But why is your state nearly twice as much?
As of today, I monitor this very.
And again, he's lying through his teeth. Why? Because he says, oh, the big oil companies is making gas expensive where I am. Well, evidently, those same oil companies like Enron, Shell, whatever, all these companies, the Shell company, all these sort of things, Exxon, these companies have presidents over Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico. The same like five-ish companies do oil and gas sales for the entire United States, minus maybe certain parts of Texas and Alaska, which is to suggest, obviously, that these other states aren't as expensive as yours. So maybe you're the common denominator here and not the big companies. Because the big companies, if they're screwing California over, why wouldn't they screw over Arizona? Like, why is the gas here $4.19? Obviously, it's your problem. But he'll obfuscate, and that's smart. You got to respect it from the standpoint of like a utilitarian.
Very close. I just did a special session. We became the first state in the country to do price gouging legislation with a new monitor just went into effect. These oil companies are ripping us off. $2.
They're only ripping off California, though?
$2.06. This mystery surcharge that they've been advancing for years and years.
But the average around the country's $4, and I saw anywhere between $6.50 and $7.
$2.06 higher. You're absolutely right.
No, your state is much more than every other state.
Exactly. $2
Why?
higher. Because they're screwing us. There's no justification.
It's not regulation.
Again, expert political rhetoric here. Make everybody else the enemy. So again, there's a Trump meme that a lot of his fans point out where it's like, they're not after me, the obnoxious billionaire with the loud mouth. No, they're after you, the nobody hillbilly in Nebraska, which is to suggest that, no, actually Trump isn't this evil guy. No, he's actually the pariah that defends you against the liberal order. And Nixon also employed this 50 years ago, the silent majority. So, oh, it looks like I'm losing. It looks like people don't like me. No, it's just that everybody who likes me is in the closet. Okay, so the political rhetorician that's actually smart will use populist tactics like the one that he's employing here to say that actually you guys are the enemy. You shadow companies that I will not name are gouging us for magically the amount of money that makes the gas more expensive in California than it does in Texas. Oh, it's a $2.60 difference. Okay, well, isn't that kind of convenient that this mystery surcharge that you won't even point out specifically is evidently making your gas more expensive, but not any other states more expensive, even though those same companies run the fucking industry. So he's lying. But then again, if you're some like low IQ, like, okay, let's just say you're like a recent Mexican immigrant, you become a citizen, you don't really follow politics, you're like some 30-year-old Mexican guy working at Home Depot, you have an IQ of 90, do you really think you're gonna know any better than what Gavin Newsom is saying? You wouldn't know any better, which is to also point out, obviously, that he's actually being effective because he's saying, they're screwing us over. Californians are getting screwed over by the big company. It's not my fault as governor. No, it's everybody else. And that tends to work out for him.
Absolute BS. 85 cents. 85 cents, low carbon fuel standard.
How much does California get per gallon for gasoline tax?
When you add the gas tax, you add cap and trade, and you add the low carbon fuel standards, and then periodically add, and I'm being as transparent as I can be, and you add our unique blend, you get a differential around 85 cents. That you can justify, not $2.
Okay, so you see this? He has this elaborate cope for why the taxes are so much higher. So now and again, how can you tell he's lying? He's being manipulative because he's saying, I'm being as transparent as possible. Well, when you have to say that, you're probably lying, okay? So, I mean, that's very obvious. And then he's saying, and again, this is a very convoluted sort of way of explaining it, that, well, if you have this tax, this tax, this tax, this tax, and you add them together, but then you divide them by like these esoteric meanings, then you'll only have an 85-cent difference in the price. And then there's okay, so basically he's trying to tell the voter, like, okay, yeah, the gas is $3 more expensive here in California than it is in Texas, but keep in mind that there's a 70% fault on the mysterious surcharge that I won't tell you about, and then maybe sense of it is my fault. But then let me explain to you why that is somehow warranted. Okay, let's see what he says.
$6. That's
Okay,
where the
so you're
oil
admitting
companies
you should
are
be
screwing.
$1 more
And
a
if
gallon.
you want to trust the oil companies, I can assure you, these guys don't have your back or the American
Let me
public's
tell you
back.
something. When Donald Trump was
So again, see how you have to, in a political argument, you have to draw a narrative. And the narrative is that Gavin Newsom is the good guy and the oil companies that you don't know of, but people tend to have like a bad they basically just tend to hate big companies, rich people. And so they say, well, you know what? I'll trust this rich white guy over the other rich white guys that are tandem that I don't know exist, right? So better the devil you know in a lot of cases. And so that is the sort of thing he's going for. It's populist and it's very much inherently persuasive to a lot of dumb people because he's saying, oh, you want to trust the black oil companies that you don't see in the shadow, the mystery? Okay. See? You guys see this?
president, gasoline prices nationwide never averaged $3
Well,
a gallon. Never once averaged
We didn't
more
have
than $3
Saudi
a
pulling
gallon.
back another 1 million barrels. We didn't have OPEC Plus screwing us. We didn't have a war in Ukraine.
Oh,
We didn't have.
he
weren't
got
going
lucky?
through. No, we weren't also going through this COVID supply chain reality. So there was a lot of competing factors that led to some of this.
But
By the way,
but he
and Sean,
also
can we level
adopted.
set-
Wait a minute. He made the country energy independent for
By the way,
first
we're
time
more
in
energy
75 years.
We are more energy dependent today. Look that up. It's a fact. And if you
False.
No, it's just factually untrue.
Joe Biden is unilaterally
I
disarmed.
encourage the people watching. Look
I
this up.
encourage the people watching.
5.94 quads. Google 9.5.
Look at all the restrictions Joe
5.94
Biden
quads.
has put
We are
on
more
oil and
energy
gas companies.
independent today under Biden. Pence doesn't know that. Your audience doesn't know that. More domestic oil production than any time in history. We're on pace this year. That's a fact.
right.
You guys keep making that up.
No,
So again, Hannity gets worked because Hannity came in here thinking like, oh, I have the facts on my side, I have the truth. And then Newsom just fucking relays it back. And the reason why is because with these sort of political things, there's enough fungibility where obviously you could lie and you could kind of obfuscate, and then you can come up with this like Google tagline, which I don't know if it's true, but he says Google 5.94 quads of oil, whatever the hell. And obviously, if you're somebody who doesn't know about politics, you're just going to take him at his word for it, because why would he lie about something so specific? That's something that is very easy to manipulate. So maybe he's being honest, maybe he isn't. But that is something that a dishonest person would say is like, okay, here's this very obscure example. Google it. Trust me, bro. Trust me, it's on the internet, bro. But usually when people say that, they're full of shit. And I mean, in this sort of political realm where somebody like Hannity comes in cocky, he gets dished out by a more talented rhetorician or political figure like Gavin Newsom. On topics like the law, you can't really skirt around the bush this much. So as a lawyer, Gavin Newsom would probably suck relative to his political science nomenclature. Here, he does actually really well, because in politics, you can lie and draw narratives. In a legal case, it's more open and shut, black and white, is this person guilty or not? So I think in those cases, Gavin Newsom would suffer. But in this specific situation, I feel like he's killing it so far.
we don't make it up.
You're making it up.
We're energy independent, and now we're
We
not.
are energy independent.
No, we're
Net
not.
energy
No,
exporters.
we are not.
Sean, this is going to be so much fun when this gets PolitiFact tomorrow.
Anwar, go there. Look at all the other restrictions.
5.94 quads. That's the margin. It's the highest margin of net energy export in America's history under the Biden administration.
All right. I did have a little fun, and for once, you actually got back
By the
to
way,
me.
I can't wait for PolitiFact tomorrow. There's going to be some fun.
PolitiFact. Why don't you go to the greater?
I want you to
Why don't
show
you go
your
to the
audience.
Washington Post fact checker who
All right,
needs
there's
to be
4
fact checked?
Pinocchios then coming your way.
You get 4 Pinocchios your way. All right. So I come into your state.
Yes.
I love In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah.
High price of gasoline, of course, not your fault. Although you admit 85 cents of it is. Here's the other thing. So I have a guy driving me, loves California, hates your taxes.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is what we see. He points out to me a bridge being built.
Yes, sir.
For the people at home, imagine this. They're building the bridge for mountain lions. It cost $100 million. Some of it private money, some of it government money.
A lot of private money.
Some of it government money.
Yes.
So you're building bridges
Yes,
for
we are.
mountain lions and rattlesnakes.
Among other, it's a wildlife crossing.
A wildlife
because
crossing.
We've seen so many accidents. We want to protect people's health and safety, impacting the economy and insurance and traffic in the region because of wildlife crossings. And we want to address a vision for this state as it relates to setting aside 30% of our land to be protected for future generations. Vast majority of that comes from the Wallenberg Foundation, private sector, and it's inspired a generation of kids. And we want to inspire other like-minded wildlife crossings across the country.
So you got this debate.
Okay, genius answer. So again, it's very obvious, and I haven't even looked this up, but you have $100 million bridge for animal crossings. I mean, how the hell could it be that expensive? It's not like you're paying for like asphalt or like something that would make it very super safe. I mean, these are fucking animals, right? It's not like you're guarding a bunch of like white stallions or something. These are just like normal animals. Okay, well then, okay. I mean, how would it be that expensive to make a bridge in that case? Doesn't make sense. Well, he tries to explain it he switches the narrative. Instead of saying, well, yeah, well, we need $100 million bridge for a bunch of snakes and mountain lions. No, he's saying, well, actually, we need it for human safety. When you involve humans, all of a sudden the interest goes through the freaking roof. Because when you say, well, we're protecting human lives, clearly when it comes to humans, people, at least the voter, would think like, well, that's invaluable. So you know what, 100 million, whatever. And then he'll also, on top of that, say, once he has you hooked in on 100 million for humans, he'll say, well, actually, a lot of it is being paid by the Bilderberg Foundation, which seems like a very much like a Shadow Inc. like Bilderberg. What the hell is, like, what family is that? And so you're saying like, okay, well, it's $100 million, sure, but human life is invaluable as somebody who doesn't know better. Plus, these rich people are paying for half of it. Okay, so then I don't care. So then he just waves it away. Plus, he's saying like, oh, we're going to inspire a generation of kids, which makes him look like a good guy.
Debate with Governor Ron DeSantis.
Yes.
Are you excited about it?
More so tonight. He lied about fracking. Nikki Haley laid him out. He lied about fracking. He lied to the American people tonight. He did an executive order.
By the way, there's only going to be two of you,
But Sean,
So notice right now, look at the demeanor of DeSantis and then look at the body control of Newsom. It's a very clear, obvious Newsom W in regards to the physiognomy and even more than that, the posture. And you can really break this down more if you want. But basically the point is that with Newsom, he's trying to triangulate and really use the other Republicans as battering rams against DeSantis because he doesn't share a stage with him yet. And so because he wants DeSantis gone out of the runnings for president in 2028, because obviously DeSantis is a way better governor than Newsom, if not just a way worse politician as like an effective, charismatic person. And so, you know what? Newsom says like, you know what? This is my number one op for 2028 when I run for president. So let me try to kill him now, get him in the kneecaps and dislodge him from politics while I, have time to do it. So now he's saying, well, Nikki Haley killed you over that. Well, Nikki Haley's also running for president right now. Why would he not shit on Nikki Haley too? Well, he doesn't view her as a threat for president. So he says, well, you know what, DeSantis, you're a way bigger problem. Obviously, Nikki Haley as governor didn't do anything close to as competent as DeSantis. At least that's the perception, which is what counts. So that means that Newsom has a bigger incentive to knife DeSantis, even though he probably politically disagrees with both vehemently.
You guys, you don't like him. I know.
no, I just don't like. Well, I don't like people that demonize other people or go after vulnerable communities. But I also don't like liars. Nikki Haley laid him out tonight. He signed a 2019 executive order. I'm a governor. I know what an executive order is. Why would you sign an executive order saying you will not do offshore oil rigs in your backyard, and then blame Biden for not doing more across the country?
I have an exit
that hypocrisy is remarkable, and Haley laid him out.
Save that for the debate. Here's.
Again, very sociopathic. He says, Haley laid him out. He repeated that 4 different times. He had that he really thought that was going to be good. He had it rehearsed. He said it in front of a mirror. Again, you can imagine an American Psycho scene where he's talking to the mirror and he's saying like, Nikki Haley laid him out. Nikki Haley laid him out. Nikki Haley killed him. I'm an executive governor, or I'm a governor. I know about executive orders. He practices all those lines because he thinks they're actually good. And you know what? He did deliver those well. But you can see how he repeats things because he has already practiced them before. You can see how disingenuous of a person he is. Then again, it helps. It works. DeSantis practiced this too for debates, but he's not as good. So, I mean, it's like, okay, well, I can't hate. Now, do I practice saying anything at all? No. But I'm me. So, anyway.
My exit question.
Happened tonight.
Under any circumstances at all, yes or no, will you ever accept the Democratic nomination to run for president in 2024? Under any circumstances at all? That's a yes or no?
I'm looking forward. I was just in Chicago with the DNC.
I don't need the long answer. I want the yes or no answer.
To President Biden's inauguration.
Will you accept it under any circumstances?
Of course not. It's a hypothetical.
Yes or no?
No.
No, under any circumstances.
It's ridiculous. Joe Biden's our president.
You called me ridiculous.
Joe Biden is
I'm going to make you pay for my In-N-Out burger.
Joe Biden won the debate tonight, and you're right about In-N-Out burger, and that's a great way to end. You are right about In-N-Out.
All right, but the last thing is all.
See how brilliant he is there? Number one, it offends his ego that he has to like renunciate himself from the 2024 race. Because obviously, as an ambitious political person, He wants to run for president right now, but he knows that it's a bad time because obviously the Democrats are reeling. Joe Biden's very unpopular, not necessarily because he's a shitty president, but also just the country sucks right now. So whoever's going to be the president is going to more or less get the zeitgeist blame for it in polls. So whoever takes up the nomination, no matter who it is for the Democrats, would probably lose to the Republican, even if it is somebody more moderate or more of a maverick like JFK Jr. or RFK Jr., I think it is. So, I mean, the point is that yeah, he's kind of pissed off. He's in this Nico chair because it's like, well, you know what? It's like old piece of shit Joe Biden's going to be the president right now, and he sucks, and I do better. And now I have to wait 4 years to be president when in reality, I wish I could run now, but Biden's in the way, and Biden's not a qualified person. So it's basically like Shawn Mendes, like, I know I can treat you better than he can, and any girl like you deserves a sociopath. So basically, that's what he's feeling. So he gets pissed off when he has to renunciate the chance to run for president this year. Not because he actually is gonna run, but just because he's offended at the fact that somebody would prefer Biden over him. If you understand what I mean, like it's kind of like if you said, I want to date this girl, but she's with my friend. Okay, well, are you gonna date this girl? You're offended they bring that up because you clearly do, but you also have to say no. So it just pisses you off that he has to bring it up. So of course at the end he reluctantly says like, of course not, but he just visibly cringes when he gets asked the question at the beginning by Sean Hannity because he just hates the idea of it in general. But then what's also very alpha of him is that usually when you're in an interview with somebody who's pretty famous like Sean Hannity, you're kind of like a docile person. You're like waiting for him to end it, but he just shuts him up. He's like, yeah, you know what? On that note, you're right about In-N-Out, like pretending to give a shit. Gestures to him like, hey, you care about In-N-Out. Okay, well, you know what? Good time to wrap it up. Who else does that besides like Trump, right? Like just shuts down the interview. He's not in control of it, but he'll just take control because he's the alpha male, so to speak.
All those stupid interviews you did, it made you prefer to do my show.
Well, I mean, I love talking about gas prices and wildlife crossing.
That's all the time we have left. Thank you, Governor. Hey, Sean Hannity here.
Okay, so total W by Gavin Newsom. It's crazy. Alrighty, folks. So you can see how Gavin Newsom gutted Ron DeSantis and now even gave you this extra video at the end, basically saying like, you know what, this 10-minute interview kind of displays why he's so much better of a politician just on a pound for pound basis compared to DeSantis, even though obviously DeSantis is way better on the issues. I agree with him way more than Newsom. Obviously, Newsom sucks in that respect. But just on a political level, like if you divorce the politics from it, if you know what I mean, like if you just divorce the actions, who's a better speaker? Who's a better interviewee? Who's a better interviewer? Who's a better interrogator? Who's a better debater? Who's a better arguer? Who's a better manipulator? Who's a better car salesman? And you know what? That used car, it's a piece of shit. But you know what? Gavin Newsom would have a better obviously selling it to somebody than Ron DeSantis. You know what? Ron DeSantis is somebody who was a good governor on paper, had a really good economy, had the best economy, generally speaking, in the COVID era. And yet he's on the back foot in a presidential debate against a bunch of fucking losers, frankly. And he's on the back foot against Gavin Newsom, who has the biggest state, but also the shittiest one. And so that has to relatively say like, damn, DeSantis, you suck. And so this video just wanted to illustrate that. And I respect Gavin Newsom a lot on the kind of like sociopathic level. I don't really, maybe it's not respect, but I just kind of like, I kind of just acknowledge how competent he is. And I got to say like, you know what? I can't hate. It's like your enemy sports team. It's like, you know what? That wide receiver is good. I can't lie. Okay. So respect to that. And, you know, I don't hate the player. I hate the game. So you know what? The Democrats are wrong, but he clearly schools the fuck out of DeSantis. And I cannot wait until they debate each other. And I'll see you then. Adios.